This is Fluent English Journey Podcast.
From Speak English with Nora. Hello there, English learners. Welcome to the very first episode of the Fluent English Journey Podcast. I'm Nora, and this is your space for learning English through meaningful conversations that truly matter in real life.
And I'm Ethan. Today we're diving into something that affects every single one of us, that invisible bubble we create around ourselves. You know what I'm talking about, right? That safe little space where everything feels predictable and easy.
Exactly. We're talking about comfort zones. And here's what's interesting. Most people think comfort zones are just about being lazy or scared, but it's actually much deeper than that. It's about how our brains are wired to keep us safe, even when that safety is holding us back.
Oh, that's so true. And you know what? This episode isn't just about pushing yourself to do scary things. It's about understanding why we get stuck, and more importantly, how to get unstuck in a way that actually works.
Before we jump in, I want to let you know that we've designed this episode specifically for English learners. We'll speak clearly, use natural expressions, and explain things step by step.
And if you want to practice more after listening, we've created a free study guide with questions, exercises, and all the key phrases from today. You can find the link in the description.
So grab a cup of coffee, get comfortable, ironically, and let's talk about why getting uncomfortable might be the best thing you can do for yourself.
You know, Nora, I've been thinking about this topic a lot lately. Have you ever noticed how we use the word comfortable to describe both good and bad situations?
What do you mean?
Well, we say, I'm comfortable in this job when we like it, but we also say, I'm too comfortable in this job when we feel stuck. Same word, completely different meanings.
That's brilliant. You're right. Comfort can be both a blessing and a curse. When you're learning a language, for example, you need some comfort to feel confident. But if you're too comfortable, you stop growing.
Exactly. And I think that's where most people get confused. They think comfort zones are bad, so they try to be uncomfortable all the time. But that's exhausting and doesn't work long term.
So what's the secret then? How do we find that balance?
Great question. I learned this the hard way when I was improving my English speaking skills. I used to avoid conversations with native speakers because I was afraid of making mistakes. I was comfortable practicing alone, but I wasn't really improving.
I can relate to that. For me, it was about fitness. I would always choose the same easy workout routine because I knew I could complete it. I felt successful, but nothing was changing in my body or my energy levels.
So what changed for you?
Well, I realized that comfort zones aren't actually about comfort. They're about fear. I wasn't choosing easy workouts because they felt good. I was choosing them because I was afraid of failing at something harder.
That's a powerful realization. Fear disguised as comfort. I never thought about it that way.
Right. And once I understood that, everything shifted. Instead of trying to eliminate comfort, I started asking myself, am I making this choice because it serves me or because I'm afraid?
I love that question. It's like having a personal truth detector.
Exactly. And that brings us to something really important. Growth doesn't require suffering. It just requires honesty about what's really driving your choices.
You know, that reminds me of something I discovered about habit formation. There's this concept called micro-discomfort, doing something just slightly outside your comfort zone every day.
Tell me more about that.
Well, instead of making huge dramatic changes, you make tiny adjustments that feel manageable but still stretch you. Like if you want to improve your English, instead of joining an advanced conversation group immediately, you might start by asking one question in English at a coffee shop.
That's so practical. It's like training your comfort zone to expand gradually instead of trying to break it completely.
Exactly. And the beautiful thing is that your brain starts to trust the process. You're not shocking your system, you're gently teaching it that growth can feel safe too.
I think this is where a lot of people go wrong. They read a motivational book or watch an inspiring video, and then they try to change everything overnight. But sustainable change is actually quite gentle.
Yes, and speaking of sustainable change, I want to share a framework that really worked for me. It's based on the idea that transformation happens in stages, not all at once.
I'm curious about this. What does that look like in practice?
Well, think of it like learning to swim. First, you get comfortable with water. Then you learn to float. Then you practice basic strokes. You don't jump into the deep end on day one, right?
That makes so much sense. So, how do we apply that to other areas of life?
Great question. Let's say you want to become more confident speaking English. Stage 1 might be listening to English podcasts, like this one, and getting familiar with natural conversation patterns. You're not speaking yet, but you're building foundation skills.
And stage 2?
Stage 2 could be speaking to yourself in English for a few minutes each day, maybe describing your morning routine or talking about your weekend plans. You're practicing, but in a safe environment.
And then stage 3 would be actual conversations with other people?
Exactly. But by the time you reach stage 3, it doesn't feel scary anymore because you've built up your confidence gradually. Your comfort zone has expanded to include speaking English.
I really like this approach because it honors where you are right now while still moving you forward. It's patient but purposeful.
That's a beautiful way to put it. Patient but purposeful. And you know what's interesting? When you approach growth this way, you start to enjoy the process instead of just focusing on the outcome.
Yes, because you're celebrating small wins along the way instead of waiting for some big transformation at the end.
Speaking of small wins, I want to talk about something that surprised me during my own growth journey. The people around you start to change too.
How so?
How so? Well, when you start expanding your comfort zone, some people get inspired and want to know your secret. But others might feel uncomfortable with your changes and try to pull you back to where you were.
Oh, that's so true. I remember when I started waking up earlier to exercise, some friends would joke about it or try to convince me to skip workouts and sleep in instead.
Exactly. And it's not because they're bad people, it's because your growth reminds them of their own unfulfilled potential, and that can be uncomfortable for them.
So how do you handle that kind of resistance from others?
I learned to be compassionate but firm. I would say something like, I understand this might seem different, but it's really important to me right now. I didn't try to convince them or make them feel bad. I just stayed focused on my own path.
That's wise. You're not responsible for other people's comfort zones, only your own.
Right. And here's what's amazing. When you model consistent growth without being preachy about it, you actually give other people permission to grow too. You become a living example that change is possible.
I love that. Leading by example rather than by advice.
Exactly. And that brings us to something really important about maintaining growth over time. What do you do when the initial excitement wears off?
That's the million-dollar question, isn't it? Because motivation fades, but habits stick around.
Yes, and I think this is where most people struggle. They start strong, but after a few weeks or months, they drift back to their old patterns.
So what's the solution?
I've found that it's not about motivation at all. It's about identity. Instead of saying, I'm trying to exercise more, you start saying, I'm someone who takes care of their health. Instead of, I'm working on my English, you say, I'm someone who communicates in multiple languages.
That's profound. You're not just changing your actions, you're changing how you see yourself.
Exactly. And when your identity shifts, the behaviors become natural instead of forced. You're not pushing yourself to do things, you're just being who you are.
I can see how that would be much more sustainable. You're working with your psychology instead of against it.
Right. And the beautiful thing is that once you've expanded your identity in one area, it becomes easier to do it in other areas too. Growth becomes your new comfort zone.
What a powerful way to think about it. Throughout our conversation today, we've covered so many important concepts, from recognizing that fear often disguises itself as comfort, to understanding the power of micro-discomfort and gradual change.
Absolutely. And I hope everyone listening feels inspired to take just one small step outside their comfort zone this week. It doesn't have to be dramatic, just purposeful.
Remember, growth isn't about becoming a completely different person overnight. It's about becoming a slightly better version of yourself every day.
And if you're learning English, you're already doing this. Every time you listen to this podcast, every new word you learn, every conversation you have, you're expanding your comfort zone.
That's so true. Language learning is actually the perfect example of gradual, sustainable growth. You start with simple words and phrases, then build complexity over time.
And the best part is that learning English opens doors to so many other growth opportunities. New books to read, new people to meet, new ideas to explore.
So, whether you're working on your English, your career, your health, or any other area of life, remember, you don't need to be fearless. You just need to be willing to feel a little discomfort in service of your dreams.
Perfect way to end today's episode. Thank you for joining us, everyone. Keep growing, keep learning, and we'll see you next time on the Fluent English Journey Podcast.
Until then, take care of yourselves, and remember, your next level is just one small step away.
Thanks for listening. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and check out my other videos to keep improving your English. See you next time.